Hello everybody, this is Delby Bragais, and in this video, I will be sharing with you excerpts from a presentation I made for image consultants, creatives, and entrepreneurs on the topic Creative Entrepreneurship. 5 lessons from fashion icons to take you from grit to great. In this video, I will be sharing with you the 3 lessons I learned during this pandemic that changed my life. I will be sharing with you the difference between a traditional entrepreneur and a creative entrepreneur, and I'll be sharing with you 5 stories from 5 fashion icons to take you from grit to great. Let's go! Angela Lee Duckworth, the famous TEDx speaker and author, said, "Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint." Grit, for me, is one of the qualities very, very important for entrepreneurs and those who would like to start a business. For me, grit is having the perseverance to push through and see their goals and dreams reach fruition despite all of the hardships, the ups and the downs through their entrepreneurial journey. There are 3 things I learned as a result of this pandemic, and these 3 things changed the way I look at life and look at business in general. The first is that it is very important for us to have multiple sources of income, simply because of all the businesses that had to shut down, all the people who lost their jobs, and all of the challenges unforeseen that have come our way because of this pandemic. We really need to have a diversified stream of income. Number 2, it is advisable to have a mix of active income and passive income. The main difference for this is that active income comes from work that you do and is directly tied to your time. However, with passive income, you could be making money even while you sleep. This does not mean that you will not do anything or no work is involved. It just simply means that earning money is not directly tied to your time. You could actually make money in your pajamas while sleeping. And third, it highlighted the importance of building a personal brand, because I believe that this is the gateway to attracting opportunities, either in terms of career growth, in terms of entrepreneur experiences, collaborations, and sales, additional clients, or monetizing a passion or an expertise moving forward. So those are the 3 things I learned as a result of this pandemic that somehow changed my mindset and the way I viewed business. So what is the difference between a traditional entrepreneur and a creative entrepreneur? Of course, entrepreneurs have always relied on their creativity to produce wealth. But the modern creative entrepreneur goes further. I believe that the main difference is really from the driving force or the motivation behind the effort. For traditional entrepreneurs, the main driving force is profit, while for creative entrepreneurs, it's passion, its expression, and it's a celebration of expertise. John Hawkins defines creative entrepreneurs as people who use creativity to unlock the wealth that lies within them, rather than external capital. Another differentiator between these two types of entrepreneurs, for me, is how success is measured. Traditional entrepreneurs usually use financial metrics, they use revenue and profit, while creative entrepreneurs use fulfillment and passion, expression, or purpose, and then it's profit. So for me, I believe that creative entrepreneurs are actually traditional entrepreneurs who have evolved. Douglas Eby says, if you create just for your own pleasure and mental health, that is of course fine. But if you want to get your creative work seen and acknowledged and have it financially support your life, you need to see yourself as a creative entrepreneur. Remember this, money follows passion. So, here we go. I am going to be sharing with you 5 stories from 5 fashion icons to take you from grit to great. So it's very simple. All you have to do is guess who this famous fashion designer is. One of the ways we can truly learn from those who have made it is to know their backstory. Usually, we see people who have reached super success status only after they have made a name for themselves. But do we know the inside story? In this section, I will not be focusing on fashion and style per se, but the backstory of each designer as they journeyed from grit to great. Hopefully, you find information, insight, and inspiration from these fashion icons. So, to kick off this section, are you ready to guess who this famous fashion designer is? Who is this famous fashion designer whose name is synonymous to French couture, luxury, and beauty? Who introduced the new look? And who introduced licensing for fashion that proved to be very profitable? He also introduced luxury ready-to-wear. Yes, it is Christian Dior, born January 21, 1905 to October 24, 1957. He famously said, "I don't design clothes. I design dreams." Do you know that behind the success is actually a reversal of fortune story? Christian Dior was born to a wealthy family. However, the Great Depression of 1929 led to the bankruptcy of his father's fertilizer business. He had to close down an art gallery which he owned and ended up sleeping on the floor of his friends' homes and selling fashion illustrations to survive. He gained an internship in the house of Lucien Lelong, and that was where he learned to design clothes. He opened his fashion house in December of 1946, and his first fashion show was in 1947. Now, I would often ask myself what was so new about the new look. After World War II, workwear and uniforms were empowering. Women had to step up into the roles vacated by men and became the head of the household because the men had to go to war. They worked in the factories and farms, and many entered the armed forces to support the military. Fabrics were rationed. Less fabrics, shorter hemlines, big padded shoulders, and this was the landscape amidst Dior coming in and launching the new look. It was about opulence. He started consuming yards and yards and yards of luxurious fabrics, and it was about elegance, something that was so new during an era of rationing. So that was where the term the new look came, because it was really so new at that time. But I wonder how many people really know that his career as a fashion designer only spanned 10 years. In 1957, Christian Dior died of a heart attack. So, what is the lesson we can learn from this? I believe the lesson here is focus. Life is short. Let's do stuff that matters. In today's world where there are a lot of shiny, bright objects left and right, things that we could do, new platforms every day, new apps every day, etc. There are so many things that we could focus, but without actually strategically focusing on our dreams, our goals as an entrepreneur, and what we want to achieve, then it will be very difficult to achieve our goals and dreams. So what do we learn here? The value of focus. Tomorrow is not promised. Who is this famous American fashion designer? His name is synonymous with a high-end lifestyle and best known for the polo shirt. Yep, he is a symbol of the modern, preppy lifestyle. The brand Polo is one part of a multi-billion international empire, from fragrances, home furnishings, luxury clothing, and restaurants. But did you know that Ralph Lauren actually is a rags to riches story? He famously said, "Each day is an occasion to reinvent ourselves." He is a designer who began his career working out of a drawer in the Empire State Building, turning scraps of fabric into designer ties, and is one of the literal rags to riches stories. Born Ralph to Jewish immigrant parents who fled from Belarus, he would wear his brother's hand-me-downs. He grew up at the Bronx in New York to working-class parents, and he would go and escape into the movie theater, and he would project himself into the scenes. That was the late 40s and 50s. So that vision, the ability to step into a fantasy world with actors and actresses and glamorous scenes, lifestyle settings. There was Fred Astaire, Gary Cooper, Cary Grant. So he really had tremendous powers of visualization. But what was very interesting about his story was when he first approached Bloomingdale's early on in his career. Now, they wanted him to adjust his designs for the neckties, and they wanted him to make his ties according to their specifications. At that time, his neckties were wide and they wanted it narrower. and it was basically very different from his original design. So he wanted his neckties wide and branded them under his name Polo, and it was the first time that, of course, he had to say, well, he did say no to Bloomingdale's, and actually 6 months later Bloomingdale's called him, and as they say, the rest is history. That was the first time Bloomingdale's gave a designer their own in-store boutique. So for me, the lesson we can learn about entrepreneurship in Ralph Lauren's story is a lesson on standing our ground. And this could be true for prices, for terms, and for creatives, for your designs, etc. Of course, at the end of the day, standing your ground could come with a cost, but then again, it could also be the gateway to your success. Who is this famous fashion designer? He is known for introducing his trademark smoking jacket or tuxedo in 1966, and he was the first to create a link between fashion and art. Yes, it is Yves Saint Laurent, born August 1, 1936 to June 1, 2008. He famously said, "Fashions fade, style is eternal." So, normally when you look at his story, you would think that he was a success and he had all of the accolades and he was always on top. But actually, some insiders would say this was a person with public success and private suffering. Born to a wealthy family in Algeria, Yves Saint Laurent was introverted and talented. At a time when boys played with tin soldiers, he played with dolls. And this led him to being a bullied outcast at school. Outwardly, Saint Laurent led a charmed life. By the age of 18, he had won an international design competition, beating future rival Karl Lagerfeld. And he was hired by fashion's most famous great at that time, Christian Dior. A few years after he succeeded as the designer for Christian Dior, well, this was after Christian Dior suffered an unexpected heart attack while on vacation. Sadly, Yves Saint Laurent was drafted to the military. Well, he lasted for 19 days in the military before having a nervous breakdown. He was brought to a mental institution where he received news that he had been fired from Dior. So imagine being a has-been at the age of 24. Enter into his life his partner, Pierre Berger. So with Pierre's help, he was finally able to leave the mental institution. And after his release from the hospital in November of 1960, Saint Laurent sued the House of Dior for breach of contract and won. And with the proceeds, together with his partner Pierre Berger, they set up the fashion house. Saint Laurent continued designing until 2002 and passed away in June of 2008. So for me, the lesson here when you look at his life and his backstory is really all about collaboration and knowing that nobody can succeed alone. So for entrepreneurs, it would be great to seek out and be open to partnerships and collaborative endeavors, or possibly seeking out people who have skill sets that are complementary to yours, and just surrounding yourself with people who will support you and those who are filled with positivity and those who will help you and be with you on your journey through the ups and downs as you traverse the challenging road of entrepreneurship. Who is this famous fashion designer? Known as the designer of sustainable luxury fashion and animal-friendly fashion. Her brand is vegetarian and does not use leather, fur, or PVC. She is a fashion designer known for sustainability, luxury fashion, a change agent practicing innovative ways of production in apparel and apparel-related products. She is the daughter of rock star royalty Paul McCartney. Yes, she is Stella McCartney. Stella McCartney designed Madonna's wedding gown to Guy Ritchie under the Chloe brand in the year 2000. And she also famously designed a line for Adidas. And guess what? The entire line sold out within hours. So she's known for designing for working mothers like her. So you would think, how could Stella McCartney be a great example from going from grit to great as an entrepreneur? So when you are the daughter of rockstar royalty, how difficult would it be to start a fashion brand? Well, it has its pros and cons. And one of the challenges I am sure she faced, whether admitted in public or not, is that during the early days of building her brand, there were a lot of naysayers, there were a lot of critics, and there were a lot of people who were actually saying that her meteoric rise was really more because of her father, her father's name, her father's network, the contacts, etc., and not really because of her talent. So that must have caused a little bit of pressure on this young lady. However, when you really look at it, she really was raised in an organic farm and she really is a vegetarian. Now, in terms of business, it would have been much easier if she used leather or fur, and she would make more money, and the amount of capital infusion, when you think about it, to continuously innovate, it's not cheap. It costs a lot. So using all of these leather and real fur, if she did that, she would say, I would have had a bigger company by now. But is it going to be according to her values and the things that she stands for? So for me, the lesson here for entrepreneurs is authenticity is power. It is a great differentiator, and although being authentic might be really hard, pushing through and going forward, sticking to your values and things you care about, and standing up for those that mean something to you, the values that mean something to you, could really be your gateway to positioning and your gateway to having a business that supports you not only financially but in terms of purpose and passion, fulfills you. Stella McCartney famously said, "Who wants to talk about this season's color or the next it bag?" The sustainability conversation is really the only one I'm interested in having. So here's to authenticity and how this can be a great differentiator and position you for work that is aligned with your purpose, that is aligned with your passion, and that will give you prosperity in the future. Who is this famous fashion designer? Known for the little black dress, and also known to be the first designer to ever lend her name to a fragrance. She's also known as the fashion designer who freed the women from the strict and limiting confines of the corset. Yes, 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 it is none other than Coco Chanel. She famously said, "In order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different." In the 1920s, Coco introduced the little black dress and gave women freedom from the confines of the corset. Much of her clothing was made of jersey, a fabric commonly used for men's underwear. She popularized a sporty, casual chic as the feminine standard of style. Today, there are more than 300 Chanel stores worldwide with about 3 billion in product sales each year. Coco came from nothing and built a fashion empire that exists to this day. Born Gabrielle Chanel in 1883, she struggled with a dark childhood. Her mother died when she was very young, and her father abandoned her and her 2 sisters. So she ended living in a convent, an orphanage, where she learned how to sew. She got the name Coco because she performed in cabarets and was given that nickname as a term of endearment. She became the mistress of Englishman Boy Chappelle, who financed her first hat shop. It was a reinvention of her lover's jersey shirt that changed the world of fashion. What is so special about this designer? She has definitely not had an easy life, but you can see the grit, you can see the resilience, and you can see the strength to bounce back. This is the only fashion designer I know of who has survived 2 world wars. She made a comeback to the fashion field after 15 years of not really working in the fashion industry because she had to close her boutique due to World War II. So making a comeback at the age of 70s is definitely not a joke. There was a lot of challenges when she did make a comeback because a lot of people felt that she was a collaborator for the enemy, and she had a tough time with that comeback. However, she was warmly received after traveling across the seas, and she has discovered the lucrative American market. So it was like setback after setback, and in the end, trying to make a comeback at that age. What lesson can we learn here? Well, for entrepreneurs, a setback can be a prelude to a comeback. There you have it. 5 lessons from 5 fashion icons to take you from grit to great. Good luck! If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that you are informed every time we post new videos. Here's to purpose, passion, and prosperity.